1942 is the year of the film's premiere. In the middle of the Second World War, Berlin. The residents' lives have drastically changed as bombings, raids, and genocides have increased more frequency. Nationwide restrictions on freedom have also resulted from the rise of the Nazis. Spoiler ahead. Watch out. A young man known as Friedrich Weimer, who would be our protagonist, is shown to us. His poor parents cannot afford for him to pursue his dream of attending college and earning a degree. He was required to perform physical labor in his part-time job at a factory. Since boxing is one of his passions, he also practices it in his spare time. He's practicing at the neighborhood gym one morning when an abundance of Napola pupils arrive. Friedrich is soon asked to compete against a professional boxer who is one of the students. He attacks his opponent hard in the first moments of the fight. The student becomes crazy as a result, and he is about to lose. Friedrich, however, is empathic to him and pauses to use this as an excuse to knock him out. After regaining his composure, the pupil beats Friedrich. Surprisingly, the youngster makes an impression on the Napola trainer despite the defeat. After that, he receives an invitation to the esteemed institution, where he can engage in physical activities like boxing. Considering that his father dislikes the Nazis, Friedrich is worried about it. He does, however, accept when the trainer informs him of the benefits he would receive in Napola. He visits the application facility later that day, where his speech and general health are checked out. For a wide range of reasons, including being overly timid or weak, many applicants fail this selection. Friedrich, however, shines in every category and is at last chosen. Now, his father's signature of approval is the only thing separating him from Napola. Friedrich arrives home late that evening and hesitantly gives his father the letter. As he had anticipated, father yells at him to avoid such madness and refuses to sign. In the future, he hopes Friedrich will work at a high level in manufacturing, earning them a respectable salary. Then it is stated to Friedrich that he will be placed in a public facility starting next month. He can meet individuals his own age there and pick up the technical skills needed in industries. His dad wishes to send Friedrich away as soon as possible because he fears that he might become engaged with the Nazis. This is the breaking point for Friedrich. He then leaves home after faking his father's signature. The following morning, his parents discover a note he left them, which breaks their hearts. When Friedrich finally gets it to the academy in the following scene, he is shocked by its stunning exterior. When he eventually meets the boxing instructor, he is in amazement at his incredible posterior. He is greeted by the boxing instructor, who then introduces him to Christoph. Christoph becomes one of his friends and also gives him an explanation of the academy's regulations and cautions him to follow them to the extreme. Later, Friedrich looks in the mirror while wearing his new uniform. It seems that he is quite delighted with his choice. The headmaster then calls everyone into an assembly where he gives a motivational speech. When Friedrich hears this, he is so delighted by the speech. Friedrich is introduced to his roommates following the gathering. They all seem to be really friendly and helpful. Specifically, a boy called Siggy would always be ready to help. A senior student named Jauche breaks up the group's conversation. He has a bad reputation for bullying students at the school, due to the fact that nobody can pronounce his name properly. That night, he finds it hard to sleep. Friedrich hears some sounds coming from outside shortly afterward. He proceeds to the window to be sure. He witnesses a car dropping off a new pupil, who is welcomed by the headmaster. He obviously happens to be a VIP's son. Friedrich finds the same guy in the next bed in the morning. He is Albrech Stein, the affluent governor's son from the city. He is naturally gentle and kind-hearted. In addition, he is against going to war and doesn't want to enroll. His only interest is in writing essays as well as poems. The story now turns to the side of Siggy. Siggy becomes worried as the students get ready for the day since he is wet in bed once more. He is afraid of the repercussions and shame that he will experience soon. Jauche enters the room and finds out what Siggy has done. He immediately informs their cruel instructor Karl about it. Siggy is given the command by Karl to carry his mattress out to the field and pee on it in front of everyone. When the latter is hesitant to obey, Karl puts pressure by having all of the pupils perform burpees until he does so. With nothing better to choose, Siggy unwillingly pees on his own mattress. Then, the ideas of the Nazis are later discussed with the students in class. Then they learn how to load firearms. As the days go by, Friedrich and Albrech develop a unique friendship and support system for one another. Friedrich has outstanding abilities in boxing, beyond the expectations of his trainer. It turns out that Napola was the unchallenged boxing champion for a considerable amount of time, but they have recently suffered defeats. The trainer therefore believes Friedrich will restore this school's reputation. The friends get letters from their residences a month later. When Friedrich's mother inquires about his well-being, she explains that everything at home is going well. Regarding Albrech, his parents have returned his essays and complimented him on how well written they are. However, the youngster knows they didn't read them since he put markers between the pages. Friedrich chooses to read a few of his poems that same night. Friedrich's training advances gradually over the following weeks and months, and he gets better every day. The day of recognition ultimately approaches. Friedrich fights hard, pushing his opponent up towards the ropes. This puts him in a difficult situation again since, although feeling sorry for the guy, he instantly chooses victory. Each member of the audience applauds him. Once again, the story has moved on to the side of Siggy. Siggy wets his bed once more the following morning, getting into trouble. Jacques blackmails the boy after discovering this, threatening to tell the trainer unless he receives a sizable sum of money. He allows Siggy till supper to collect the money. The cadets get instruction on using stick grenades in the field later that day. While most of them complete their work precisely, one pupil blows his control and drops the grenade directly in front of the others. Carl, the instructor, is prompted by this to immediately leave the area. Now that there are only a few seconds left, Siggy chooses to take control. At great personal sacrifice, he bravely shields the device, sparing the lives of more than 20 cadets. He receives a posthumous Medal of Honor the next day in recognition of his heroism. After that, the higher officials have a brief conference forum where speakers include Albrech's father. Carl has left the kids when they most needed him. Despite his rugged exterior, they see that he is a traitor. In the ensuing training session, Carl gives the cadets instructions on how to build their abdominal muscles and asks someone to give him a punch with his hands for their friend, Friedrich, a hard punch on him. Later, Albrech invites Friedrich to his mansion as they are having dinner together to celebrate his father's birthday. Friedrich observes that Albrech's parents frequently overlook him. The two youngsters are forced to fight after their elders get drunk. Then, Friedrich throws one punch to knock his pal unconscious as a result. As a positive result, Albrech is going to write lovely poetry about this. A few weeks later, the students at the academy assembled in the hall to hear a crucial announcement. The headmaster discloses that a few Soviet inmates had murdered people, taken weapons, and run away from a nearby village. After that, the cadets are split up into groups and given orders to capture the prisoners by force. They are also given weapons and given permission to use deadly force. They come across a bunch of individuals running from a hideout. They fire without thinking far, only to learn they've just taken a group of kids. When Albrech tries to save the only child still alive, his father shows up and shoots the child to death. The poor boy becomes so caught up in the experience. Then Friedrich fights with him. As a consequence, they are both sentenced to 24 hours of imprisonment. On the next day, the teacher gives them a task to write a poem about winter in literature class. In his poetry, Albrech criticizes his father for killing defenseless children the night before. In the upcoming training session, the cadets are required to find their way through a frozen lake's opening. The first person to go is Christoph, who crosses the lake with ease. In order to facilitate the others' navigation, he also surreptitiously attaches a rope between the holes. Albrech, on the other hand, purposefully stops in the middle of the lake. Friedrich knows what he's doing, his best ultimately unsuccessful attempt to save him. Albrech then lets go of the rope and falls into the water very slowly. Friedrich, who is utterly devastated, writes an obituary for his pals that evening and wants the newspaper to publish it. The shocking news is also shared with Albrech's family. His mother cries, but Dad exhibits no regret. He thinks that because his son is weak, something will ultimately occur. The grand boxing tournament finally starts a few days later. Friedrich gets ready for battle even though he is depressed. He puts on a nice show and hits his opponent hard for the first several minutes. But when he notices Albrech's father in the crowd, laughing as if nothing had occurred, he throws down his guard and ends up losing the match on purpose. Friedrich is consequently humiliated in public, stripped of his uniform, and kicked out of the academy. As he slowly moves away from the evil Napola, the movie comes to a conclusion. We really hope you enjoyed today's recap of Before the Fall. Please leave a comment below on what you loved about the movie and why. Be sure to like the video, and please don't forget to support our channel by subscribing so you don't miss any amazing content. Until next time, light, camera, action. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.